but there are players that are playing very different things in here, and Guitars has not been very popular with it. And going into this, yes, we're seeing that Fiend, much to my surprise, breaking up the knife for game number 1. I mean, this is a pick that he does play. I often feel like it's very situational, and something that we're going to see as we get into this bracket is like these teams are probably fight each other 80 times.
Both of these comps are the expected comps from what we've seen to them based on Brawlhalla 39 that happened midway through January. It was Fiend on the Queen Nai, Use on the Bryn, it was Kyna on the Luke, and then Lores on the Kaya here, but also sometimes locking in the Pearl, which is, of course, the Kaya crossover. So these are 100% expected comps that when I was looking back at Brawlhalla 39, because I didn't know what they were going to play.
Yeah.
Kyna normally came out all the way back with Sack, coming out with the double Bodvar. Of course, Fiend has played any legend under the sun. Use usually has a spear in his hand.
Well, and what's awesome about that as well is that that was a tournament that happened even before. Oh, that was such an amazing team combo. Use decided to follow that through, and Use is gone in an instant. Yeah, that was like.
We're not even a minute in the game. I'm still giving context.
Yeah. So Use gets knocked out immediately, then gets 0 knockout there immediately, and now we're a minute in, and it's 6 stocks to 3. Yeah.
Okay, now you can start going crazy. Like, I did my long-winded exposition talking about previous tournament placements. Lores taking Use out of the game with a beautiful ground pound. Look at the pickup there. Fiend completely batting Kyna away with the spear down there. Almost ready for that one. Almost ready for that one as well. You're already seeing amazing world-class follow-ups coming out from this team. They're going to look like there's... Surely we don't get a 6 stock. It's Fiend. No shot.
When's the last time I've seen a 6 stock?
It's been in a pools match. It had to be in a pools match.
But I'm saying like a pools match at LAN. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's the only time we stream.
The spear
no way.
Side light into the ground pound. Fiend makes that back. Fiend had a chance to stop it from happening. Okay, Kyna is coming back to the stage. Weapon toss means he has no dodge. And Fiend, thank goodness, saves the 6 stock from happening, Sparky.
It was a JV6. Really just barely.
It was a JV6, but like, I cannot believe my eyes here. Look at this. So this is the team combo that happened while you were giving the exposition 50 seconds in, right? Like, that was amazing. So what I wanted to say before we looked at the screen of disbelief and Lores was just destroying Use, was that it was impressive. It was interesting to me that the comps from both teams were the same from that tournament because that tournament was pre-balanced patch, right?
Yes.
So it was one of those things where they went through into bracket and they had it prepared for that bracket because we had that community tournaments. Go ahead and
please finish what you're saying. I physically couldn't contain myself, so I had to recoil. Finish what you were saying.
And what was I saying? Oh, I was saying that. Despite
with patch notes.
Beside the patch notes, despite the balance changes, for better or for worse, they're like, this is what we prepared. We showed this in the bracket before. We feel comfortable with this, and they're going with it into game number 2. And that is after Use did not play the game.
Yep.
In game number 1.
That is what we were both physically recoiling once we saw that Use did 86 damage total compared to the 212 that Fiend did. Meanwhile, Lores putting more damage out on his team, 562 compared to Kyna's 450. If you want to look at those stats at home, make sure to open up Own's Journal on the left side and go to those live stats.
All right, they've got a little bit of a rhythm going here on Demon Island. I like this. Use has been batting opponents towards Fiend. Fiend's been pivoting the side sig, and even though it's not knocking out, Queen Nai sigs are pretty damaging. They were doing a ton of damage, and Lores and Kyna now both trying to save each other back to the stage. Fiend does go down, but a much better opening here. They just have to get those alley-oops to actually take out a stock instead of do damage, because so far blue team has been doing well avoiding getting hit by the attacks that matter. And Laura's putting out the Acno there with the gravity cancel neutral signature.
Finding his way back to the stage with it. Now, even though last game was disastrous for the red team, I didn't expect the rest of the games from these two teams to end up like that one. Like I talked about in the pre-show, talked about it on this desk as well.
Sometimes you just are like, I was still cold, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes that happens, and it happens in a bracket match. And yes, it's a bummer to go down a game, but best of 5s are good for a reason. You get that time to warm up, to adapt, and to be like, oh yeah, I'm fighting Lores. I'm going to get ground pounded by spear and by bow. Use finally goes down, and that's already a much better scoreline for Use than last game.
Now, since we just saw some team damage coming out from Kyna's, I believe, neutral light onto Lores, I do want to point out last game there was 0 team damage from Fiend and Use. So even though It was a horrible game for them. 0 team damage is impressive.
No
this
way.
combo!
Kyna doesn't get the side air follow-up afterwards, but that was an amazing pickup from Kyna on the neutral light, and Lores to be able to get in. The combos coming out from Lores and Kyna here are phenomenal. They've got some follow-ups that are just unbelievable. Yuz tries to go in, but Fiend doesn't pivot the neutral signature, and Fiend doesn't get the landing. Is that the double knockout from Yuz? No, somehow they're barely living. There we go. That down sig will finally do it, and Kyna gets sared away as they're trying to take a lead here. Yuz being the stock tank this time around. Fiend so good at the follow-ups, perfectly centers that recovery to send them straight up the top and take the lead.
Now, one thing we saw, or we really didn't see from Kyna there, was deliberately putting your stock into the blast zone because he was so much in the red, so he was going to have to fight the 1v2 while Lores was spawning back in. That means if Kyna gets knocked out, likely to happen, that means Lores is again in a 1v2 on his own rather than both of them spawning in at exactly the same time. But they're looking at Fiend. They want to take out Fiend, or at least both of them focus while Fiend is playing defensively.
Yeah, Fiend finally picks up some guitars, gets a neutral land to Lores in the recovery, switches back over to help Yuz. No! Recovers Lores again. Kyna gets the side sig. Yuz in the 1v2. Action hand could fall with the side airs, hits both Kyna and Lores, and Lores jumps right out of the way of that neutral sig, and that downlight side air, despite hitting his teammate, is absolutely what he's looking for here. Is Yuz? Okay, that was pretty creative from Yuz to turn around with that down air there in that situation, but a much closer game 2, despite still being in the hands of Lores and Kyna at the end of it. Look at that down sig, and then he catches. And
this was beautiful.
Yeah, the dash forward down light. Oh, Kyna just barely got caught by the. I was like, why didn't Kyna stare? The second hit of spear down light hits.
Yep.
And it hit in such a weird way that Kyna didn't even get like carried into it. It was D-light into side air there, into the victory. Wow, really well played.
And we're running it back. Same legends all across the board. That was really mostly what I saw when I was just scrubbing back through the VOD. Shouts out to SSL BH for putting on that tournament so I could look back through the VOD. There was Kyna changing over from the cross onto the Val, but that was only towards the end, and that was probably only because they were losing, which they eventually went on to lose that tournament. But it was mostly this comp. Same thing for Fiend and Yuz, even though Fiend has very deep pockets in terms of legend picks. Same thing for Yuz, not quite as deep as Fiend, but still. Nice pick up there. That's going to give them overall stage control. There is a weapon spawn in case they wanted to swap out their weapons. Oh, Kyna! His follow-ups are so good. I could sit here. It's hard to do commentary for this team.
Neutral sig.
I just want to make noises, Taz. I mean, so hard.
It is pretty unbelievable how Kyna and Lores can make literally any win in neutral look like some big brain team combo play, and they're just kind of that good at doubles. like I'm having trouble really explain. Like, he was getting set up on the platform on Fortress of Lions like 3 seconds before Kyna even hit that attack, and that side air follows through, down to comes through, and Kyna was getting ready to dash forward, side light on the down tick. He was like, how do I make this do 10 more damage? Like, that's all he's thinking.
That's all he wants is like more. He's greedy. He's like, I'm more. I can get more. Give me more damage. I want more.
And he's doing it by dashing through his teammate in what looks like an incredibly risky way, but he's not getting hit. And if he does get hit, it's by a little piece of the light attack. It's not that big of a deal. You lose nothing going for it.
And that's exactly it. We talked about teams getting lost in the sauce earlier today and then playing a little bit reckless. That has not happened, at least yet, from this team of Kyna and Lores. Their follow-ups truly are second to none right now, looking like the absolute best team in the world.
He was so ready. Okay, that was the first time that we ever saw. Okay, you had to say they weren't getting lost in the sauce, because that's absolutely what that was.
Bro, it was a minute 45 in. Kyna was almost barbecue sauce.
It was a rare case where he did not think Lores was going to go for the double D-light.
Yeah.
And then Lores was kind of like, hey, I got his dodge, though. And then Kyna was like, I don't have any jumps, bro. And he just falls. They are now fighting off the side of the stage. Lots of nairs coming through. Those down sigs from Lores, every single one's hit. Fiend just falls.
I didn't really notice what happened to Fiend. I saw him on the wall. I don't think he didn't run out of anything. He didn't have wall slip.
I don't know. I was really looking at what was happening to Yuz. Either way, unfortunate for the red team here in game number 3, because if Kyna and Lores win this, it's just done for. Yuz and Fiend have an edge guard scenario here. Whoa, that pivot neutral light was nuts. What was that? Okay, good neutral sig. Man,
still in KO.
Fiend has gotten about 7 hits that just barely didn't knock out into them struggling to get the knockout afterwards, and it's been so unfortunate.
Oh, spot dodging just barely to get through that ground pound that Yuz pulled out of just a little bit early, so he didn't keep it going. Did you see that dodge down from Kyna? Down diagonal right dodge to get behind Yuz. Can't remember whether it was Yuz and Fiend right there, who was going to punish Kyna. So the way he's like, I want more, but he's never too greedy.
Yeah. He is definitely on a fine line there. Oh, that was such a great side stick. Doesn't even stop him. Just jumping around and
I can't, Taz, I truly cannot believe this. I truly cannot believe this. Before we actually did our predictions today, and I was like doing my research kind of like a couple hours ago, thinking about what I wanted to put in first place. It was like, I actually don't know between Kyna, Lores, and Yuz Fiend, but I mean, based on what we're seeing right now, I'm thinking I made the right choice, but we can never count Fiend out.
Did get wall slip.
He did get wall slip.
He got wall slip. Yeah, so he just did it. That's actually wild. Yeah, he just wall slipped. Okay, so yeah, Fiend and Yuz, they go down 0-3 to Kyna and Lores, who are now in my eyes very clearly the favorites.
Dude, they went down 0-3.
Yeah.
That is brutal. This isn't a tug of war anymore. This is what it looked like at the Twitch event where it was Tyler 1 against all of the other streamers on the other side. And Tyler 1's trying to pull as hard as he can, but he's not like 15 people.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I'm realizing that Kyna after Worlds has gotten like 10 times better.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's